Creating animations, trailers, and maybe even entire movies just got so much easier. Previously, whenever you wanted to animate one of your Midjourney images in Runway or Pika, very often you get pretty wonky results. And even if you added a prompt, it didn't necessarily understand what you wanted. But with Runway's new motion brush feature, things have changed dramatically. In fact, Runway now supports up to 5 different motion brushes, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot in the AI space, but trust me, in this case, it's true. With this level of control, it's just so much fun to create clips. So today I'm going to show you how I put together a quick teaser video within less than 2 hours. So if you've been following the channel for some time, then you might remember this movie trailer that I put together last year. This was the very first time that I'd ever done anything like this, and I think I did a pretty decent job. You might also remember that I said that picking the right music for your trailer is absolutely crucial. And that's still very much the case today. You see, when you're creating these trailers, you want the music to captivate the audience. It doesn't necessarily need to be epic, loud, or dystopian, but it does need to kind of reflect the story arc. You want to build up that suspense, so your song needs to have a decent crescendo. Ideally, you also want the song to have a good mix of stronger and lighter beats, mainly because it makes it much easier to figure out where you may need to cut scenes. Anyway, so I ended up going with the following song that I found on Pixabay, and let me just give you a quick 10-second preview, just so you know what we're going to work with. Alright, so now that I basically had my song, I started working on my image assets within Midjourney. Okay, so just to be clear, everyone tends to have a different workflow here. Some people prefer to create all of their image assets first, while others will create their image assets while they're putting together their entire video. And to be honest, it really depends on what kind of project you're working on. So for example, if you're working on something very specific where you need specific visuals, such as consistent characters, then you may want to create all of your image assets first. However, if you just want to create something really quick, and that's basically what I was doing here, then you can create all of those image assets on the fly. Since I wasn't planning on creating anything super specific, I also didn't put too much effort into the prompts themselves. As you know, Midjourney will create really great images, even with fairly simple prompts. As I've said before, short prompts are absolutely fine. Very often they'll create better images than long ones. But if you're trying to create something super specific, then you're going to have to put in a lot more work than I did in this example here. Okay, so let me quickly walk you through the 15 images that I created for this example. I need to scroll down all the way down here because for some reason the new alpha web UI just doesn't allow you to sort in another direction, or at least I haven't figured out how to do that yet. My very first image that I created was a simple image of a spaceship, right? So it's nothing wild. We have a wide angle shot of an alien spaceship hovering over a dystopian cityscape in the year 2300. The atmosphere is epic, dark, dominated by a bluish color palette. Now I reused parts of this prompt over and over again because I just wanted to get that mood and that style. And I didn't really care too much about what the specific objects look like. So from these 4 that we got here, I ended up picking the one right here that I just showed here. And then I wanted to create something that looked kind of like a parliament, right? In a futuristic city, right? I don't know what that distant future really looks like, but I just wanted something that was like a round council, parliament, something like that. And from these sets that I just generated, I ended up picking up this one right here, simply because I really liked that halo up here, which I thought was going to be really useful to animate and add like a bit of a glow, and all of these sort of lights are shining downwards. Then next up, I created a close-up, and as you can see, I created a whole bunch of them, but I actually didn't choose any of the latter ones. I ended up using this one right here because I really like this one, and you'll see this show up later on in the video. I also used this one, which was from the very same set. By the way, I just said the cyborg is made of orange, yellow, and metal. It is wearing a helmet with a glass visor, so nothing special, right? So I used this one as well for a different clip. And finally, the 4th one here in that very same set, this one here, I used this one as well. So all of like 3 of these 4 images, they show up later on. And I didn't use any of the others, these variations that I created from the first one. Then I created additional images for more of a wider landscape. And you could probably think this was something from Dune or whatever, I don't know. And I did not go with this one. Instead, I picked this one because I really like the fact that you saw all of these people walking towards the horizon. And then you have these monolithic structures in the background. And from the others, I also picked this one, which was really great as well, because I knew that as the song progresses, I need to sort of add additional images and clips since the pacing of the song picks up, and then that gives you additional opportunities to insert new clips. So I picked this one, and I did not use this one. However, I did create an additional set of images with the very same prompt, which you can see here. It's these two at the bottom left here and these at the top right. The only thing I changed in the prompt here was that I said I wanted to have distinct tones of blue and gray, and that these wanderers were basically wandering at dusk. Why did I say this? Because I wanted to have a transition from the strong bluish gray colors from the initial scenes towards something warmer, more, around daylight. And I picked this one, but I also used this one and even this one. So I actually used all 4 of these later on, and I'll show you how I animated some of these later on as well. Next up, I created 2 additional images that I only created because the song has these sounds in the background. So there's this first sound where you hear a swoop, which kind of suggests that there might be something shooting down from the sky onto this planet where we are. And the other one was at a moment where there's this massive drop in the audio. And these drops are really good opportunities to really insert something that is massive or special and kind of out of place. So for example, I ended up using this image right here because I wanted to animate this comet or meteor or whatever that's shooting down onto the planet. And I also used this one over here because this beam that's just shooting down or upwards, it's pretty unclear which direction it's going. But with if you hear the sound that you'll hear later on in the video, you'll understand why I picked this one. And I just wanted to animate this with ambient movement. And finally, for the final little scenes, I just needed something that suggested destruction and mayhem. So I generated 2 sets of images, and I ended up picking this one right here. I had to crop it a little bit because I wanted this burning little spaceship thingy. And finally, I picked this one here, which actually ended up being one of my favorite shots because I kind of combined so many different elements of movement in Runway to really make this come to life. So you've got the fire that's burning, the debris that's flying around, plus you've got these structures that are falling over, and the camera is rolling. Okay, so now that we've got all of these image assets, it's time to bring them to life. And Runway's new multiple motion brush feature makes this so unbelievably easy to do. Okay, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with Runway, here's how this works in a nutshell. You open up Runway, and I'm assuming you have an account, and then you navigate to generate videos over here on the left. You then basically just click on Start with Image, and this takes you to the main generation form. You then select Upload File, and you just pick whatever sort of image you have. This will then upload the image into the form. And once the image is successfully uploaded, you've basically got a whole bunch of parameters to work with. You can control the amount of movement by clicking over here. This allows you to control the general motion. You can turn it down or up. Usually it's just in the middle at 5. You then have camera motion, which essentially allows you to control the camera as if you were filming yourself. So you can pan the camera left and right using the horizontal slider or the vertical slider. Pan in this context actually means something slightly different. But you can also roll the camera left or right, or you can zoom in or zoom out. Once you've made your choices, you then just basically select Save, which I didn't do because I haven't selected anything. And finally, you can move on to the motion brush feature, which is still in beta. But to be honest, even though it's in beta, it's pretty amazing. Basically, what it does is it allows you to select a specific area that you want to mask. So, for example, if I wanted to mask this background area where you see all of the debris flying around, I could do that just like this. It doesn't need to be as specific as I'm doing it right here. You basically just need to have rough selections. And then you can choose how you want to animate this bit. And in this case, we would choose something such as ambient movement. I'm just going to move it up to 5 here so we have some decent movement. Now you also have other sliders such as the horizontal, vertical, and proximity slider. Horizontal basically means that whatever you selected, you wanted to move horizontally, either left or right. Vertically, essentially the same, just up or down. And proximity is the z-axis, meaning that you wanted to come closer to the camera or you wanted to move away from the camera, which is really useful when you have people who are standing in a landscape and you want them to actually walk. This is what you would use to make them walk into the distance or come closer to you. Ambient movement basically just means that it's going to be wiggling, moving, just random movement, right? Just because, it's really strange when you have an image where there's this one specific area that's animated, but the rest of it is just still. So this is really useful to make the image come to life properly in the clip. Now, the big change that recently was introduced was the fact that we can now control more than just one brush. So for example, if I wanted to use a second brush to select this lady's face, then I would do so. And I could add additional ambient movement in there. Or if I wanted to maybe select their entire body, I could do so as well. And then I could control whether it's coming towards the camera or whether it's moving up. So once you're done, you just essentially hit save, and then you would just generate. Okay, so let's have a real quick look at what happened with this, because I obviously didn't put too much effort into this, but it does kind of what we expected. So we've got ambient movement around the character, and the eyes are blinking just slightly. Now you can kind of see that one issue that I pointed out if you don't move the rest of the image. So for example, the astronaut's suit basically isn't moving at all, which kind of feels unnatural. And that's why you would want to select that as well and maybe add some ambient movement as well in there. In this particular case, the image doesn't really lend itself to doing a lot more than ambient. So anyway, so this was just a quick example. So although it's interesting to see how this came out, let me show you something more interesting and rather show you what I did on specific images that we just created in Midjourney in order to get certain clips for the little mini teaser that I created afterwards. All right, so we're now within the folder for this project within the assets section of Runway. I'm just going to quickly start off with the very first clip that I created, which was the one of this spaceship. And the nice thing is when you open it up, it gives you this really quick preview of what happens. And you can see how the spaceship is moving towards the right. And you've got these other flying objects that are moving towards a different direction. Now, if you wanted to see what I did specifically, you would click on the button in the bottom right corner that just disappeared. Sorry about that. And then we can look exactly at the settings that I used. So if I open up the camera settings, you can see that I only did a little bit of a zoom here. I didn't do much else. But on the brushes, you'll see exactly what I did. So with the first brush, I selected the spaceship and I said that I wanted to move towards the right on the horizontal axis. Then with the second brush, which is basically these two little objects here, I said that I want them to fly towards the left, but also basically downwards. And the reason I did that is because I wanted them to fly diagonally. So you just take the average of the two, and then that kind of gives you that movement that you want. I also said that I want the proximity to be closer to us, so they're moving slightly towards us. And finally, I selected just randomly the surrounding area, and I said that I wanted some ambient movement. And that's basically all I did. And what you get is the video that you just saw, which is this one. So you see, it's pretty easy actually, right? So obviously it doesn't always work perfectly, but I think this gives a really good idea of how you control things. And let me show you some other ones. So one that I personally, let's quickly open up this one right here. This one was pretty tricky because the face kept deforming just a slight bit, but it kind of works. It's not perfect, but again, I didn't have massive amounts of time to do this. But if we look at the selections that I made, let's really quickly do that. Let's open it up. You see that I didn't use any camera motion on this one, but I did select stuff with the brushes. So on the first brush, I selected the astronaut himself or the cyborg, and I said that I wanted him to be moving towards the left and just a slight bit of ambient movement. I didn't do much else. And then on the second brush, I selected the surrounding space again. I wanted it to move to the right. It didn't come through as much as I originally wanted it to. And in some of the other generations, you actually see a lot more of a parallaxing effect. But as with most of these things, it's always a bit of trial and error. Okay, so let's have a look at maybe one more, and I'm going to show you this. Well, actually, no, I'm going to show you two more. So first of all, there's this one, which is the comet that's basically shooting towards our planet. And you can see it's pretty slow, and that's one of the problems that you sometimes have. But the nice thing is that even though it's slow, once you put it into your video editor, you can obviously speed up the clip itself, which makes it shorter, but also much faster. So even if Runway won't give you the speed that you want, you can always fix that in post. So in this case, all I did was I just selected this comment here. I gave it some strong movement towards the left and vertically downwards and a little bit of ambient movement. And that's all I did. And that basically created that clip that I just showed you before. And now finally, let's have a look at one more. And this is the one that I really, really enjoyed, which is this one, the final scene, and where you see everything's kind of burning, you've got debris flying around, and you've got that structure that's falling over while the camera itself is also turning. So let me show you those settings real quick. Got the camera motion, where in this case, I have the camera motion towards the left, it's panning towards the left, rolling towards the right pretty strongly, and I've got a slight zoom inwards. And then if we look at the motion brush, I've selected a whole bunch of stuff. So I started off with this fire here. I gave it ambient movement. Then I've got the pink here, which is a whole bunch of debris, which I selected also ambient movement, just not as strong. And finally, I took the third brush and selected this big monolithic structure and said that I wanted to be moving towards, well, basically towards the bottom left corner. and also some proximity. And all of this combined creates the clip that you see right here on screen. I obviously can't walk you through every single one of these clips because it'll take too long, but I think you kind of get the hang of it. And then with the help of pretty much any decent video editor, you basically orchestrate the audio and the video to create a compelling video. And to be fair, as you put all of this together, you'll end up replacing some assets, and simply because you may need something longer or the clip just isn't working within the overall video. And a good trailer also isn't just a matter of putting a bunch of clips in a sequence with a punchy song. The editing obviously is super important, and some of the aspects need to be created within the video editing software itself. But still, the quality of what you can create within a very short period of time is absolutely amazing. And trust me, it's so much fun. In fact, a lot of you have been asking me to put together a full course on how to do this. So essentially something similar to my Midjourney course, Masters of Midjourney. I haven't quite made up my mind yet, but if a course on AI filmmaking is something that you'd be interested in, then sign up under the following link below. You'll find it in the video description as well. If I do decide to build something, then you'll be among the first to know about it. So without much further ado, let's check out the teaser video that I created from all of this within literally less than 2 hours. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I hope I was able to inspire you to give this a try yourself. Remember to check the video description for my Midjourney course, as well as a whole bunch of other free stuff. And if you are interested in an AI filmmaking course, please let me know. Thank you for watching, and remember to keep on learning. Take care. Cheers.